Greeting and very good afternoon to respective examiner, supervisor, and fellow colleagues. Thank you for being here. I'm Majet Ikom, my metric number 2.030122, and my supervisor is Dr. Ida Juliana. Today, I will present you my research proposal title, The Mediating Roles of Psychological Safety and Safety Leaderships in the Relationship between the five pillars of safety culture and safety behavior among construction workers working at heights in Kidron-like industry Bintulu. This study focuses on a critical safety issue in Malaysia, in one of Malaysia's most important areas. Here is the outline of my presentations. I will cover the background of the study, the problem statements, research gaps, research objectives, and questions, hypotheses, conceptual framework, key terms, significance, literature review, and the gap synthesis, methodology, justifications of Cooper model, and finally conclusions. Let's begin with the background. Here we come to the backgrounds. It involves global and national four contexts. The persistence crisis fall from height remains the number one killer. Globally, falls account for 30 to 40% of all construction fatalities. In Malaysia alone, 101 workers died from falls at construction sites in 2024, and there were 1,299 reported fall from heights accident. Despite regulations, Malaysia's legislation's lack of specific definition for working at height, leading to ambiguous enforcement. The paradox is technologies, PPEs, safety rules have not proportionally reduced fall. This tells us the humans and organization factors are keys. Here on the background of the study, why focus on Bintulu? Bintulu is Sarawak's energy and industrial hub hosting power plants and petrochemical facilities. The workforce is multi-ethnic with a higher proportion of foreign workers who are often assigned to dirty, dangerous, and difficult jobs. Contractor face pressure to prioritize productivity over safety. The critical research gap is this. No published study has tested the five pillars of safety culture together with psychological safety and safety leaderships as parallel mediators in Bintulu construction sector. This is published study has been done to test five of safety culture with psychological safety and safety leaderships as parallel mediator here in Bintulu. Consequently, safety interventions are implemented without evidence of how they work through humans and leadership pathway. This table summarizes the five research gaps identified from the literature. Gap number one, limited research on how the five pillars relate to psychological safety. Gap number two, insufficient research on how the five pillars relate to safety leadership. Gap number three, no parallel mediations model testing both mediator simultaneously. Gap number four, no moderation testing of safety environment on psychological safety behavior relationships. Gap number five, no study in children-like industry context. This study addressed all five gaps through dual mediation plus moderation model. Here we come to the problem statement about five pillars gaps and central question. The missing links, filler filer, and the center research questions. Here we are the evidence of the filler specific filer. The table shows filler specific filers. Management commitment lack genuine priority leading to compliance gap. Safety competency that CIDB mandate the construction certificate of competency, yet non, non-compliant persists. Safety training is undermined by language barrier, requiring non-verbal methods. Safety environment often has inadequate fall protection systems. A safety attitudes includes overconfidence and carelessness among foreign level. This issue point to the missing link. The five pillars gaps, I have identified four specific gaps. First, physiology safety, how feeling safe to speak up affects four related near miss reportings. Second, safety leaderships, how supervisor visibility and authentic commitment influence compliance at height. Third, mediation pathway. Existing study find correlation but do not test underlying mechanisms. And number four, the Vintulu context, zero published research on the dual mediation model for working at height. We still at the problem statement about central research question, the missing link. This leads to the central research question. How do the five pillars of safety cultures influence safety behavior? Both compliance and participation through psychology safety and safety leaderships among construction workers working at height in Bintulu. This is the missing link we aim to uncover. We come to the research objective. This study established a rigorous framework to evaluate the interplay between safety culture and behaviors outcomes within the organizations. I have six research objectives. Research objective 1 and 2 examine the relationship between the five pillars and respectively physiological safety and safety leaderships. Research objective 3 investigate the link between the two mediators and safety behavior. Objective number 4 and research objective number 5 is to determine if psychological safety and safety leaderships act as a mediator. Finally, research objective number 6 develops and tests a comprehensive dual mediation framework. Here we come to the topic number 4. We talk about research hypothesis. Direct effect hypothesis, hypothesis 1 to hypothesis 3D. Here are the direct effect hypotheses. H1A through H1E state that each of the five pillars, management commitment, safety competency, safety training, safety environment, and safety attitude, is positively related to psychology safety. Hypothesis 2A through hypothesis 2E state the same five pillars are positively related to safety leaderships. Meanwhile, hypothesis 3A and 3B state that psychological safety is positively related to safety compliance and participations. Again, this hypothesis 3C and 3D state that safety leadership is positively related to safety compliance and participation. S4 to S5 become the mediation hypothesis. For median hypothesis, hypothesis 4A states that psychological safety mediates the relationship between the five pillars of safety compliance. Hypothesis 4B does the same for safety participation. Hypothesis 5A states that safety leadership mediates the relationship between the five pillars of safety compliance, and hypothesis 5B for safety participations. This hypothesis tested the indirect effect. Here we come to the conceptual framework. Conceptual framework linking safety culture to safety behavior. This slide presents the conceptual framework. The five pillars are the independent variables. They influence psychological safety and safety leaderships, the two parallel mediators. These mediators then influence safety behavior divided into two compliance and participation. The framework also includes safety environment as a mediator, which we will test. The implication here, the five pillars shape safety behavior at height through two critical pathways. What workers feel, psychology safety, what leaders do, safety leaderships. Integrating both pathways is essential for sustainable fall prevention and strong safety culture. Theoretical underpinnings, three complementary theoretical perspectives. These three complementary theories support this framework. First, Cooper safety cultural model, which include psychological, situational, and behavioral dimension. Second, Ballings and colleagues safety specific transformation leadership theory with four dimensions: idealized influence, inspirational motivation, intellectual simulations, and individualized considerations. The third one is from Emerson's psychological safety theory. The shared beliefs in interpersonal skill, risk-taking is safe. The framework specified relationship between the five pillars, the two mediators, and safety behavior, and tests distinct mediating effects. We come to the terms of definitions. I'm not going to read all through what's written on the slides, but here are the operational definitions. Working at height means constructions activity at 2 meters or above, measured by self-reported frequencies is pillar, is measured using 6-item scales, mostly adapted from NOSAX 50, Psychology Safety, use Edmondson Stem Upton scale, Safety Leadership use Balling's 12-item scale, Safety Compliance has 6 items, and Safety Participation has 7 items from Noor and Griffins. All use 5-point Likert or frequency scales. Research significant, theoretical, practical, and policy contributions. Research significant statement. This study bridges the gap between safety cultural theories and practice. The theoretical contribution is an integrated safety cultural model for construction. The practical contribution is actionable safety interventions or PERM. The policy contribution is evidence to inform occupational safety regulation and standards. In short, the study advanced understanding provides directly applicable tools and supports evidence policy base. Now we come to the literature review part. Prisma systematic review approach. I conducted a systematic literature review following the Prisma methodology. I searched multiple databases including PubMed, Web of Science, and Scopus using keywords like safety culture, construction workers, and occupational health. Inclusion criteria were peer reviews study from 2015 to 2025. Empirical research on safety culture in constructions and quantitative or mixed method design. I used JEDET and Robbins I2 for quality assessments and standardized form for data extractions. Here are some key statistics that justify the study. For cause 30 to 40% of global construction deaths in Malaysia, 101 deaths and 1,299 incidents in 2004. Management commitments explains 28% of variance in safety compliance. Safety certification reduce unsafe behavior at height by 40%. Virtual reality trainings or VR improves hazard recognition accuracy by 30 to 34% and negative safety attitude increase risk taking by 2.7 times. And proactive safety leadership explain an additional 18% of variance in safety participation beyond traditional safety climax measure. These numbers show how serious gaps that needs addressing. Why I choose this theoretical framework, Cooper model. I choose this as the overarching framework. Why? Because of the three parties alignment, psychological factor, what individual feel is psychological safety, situational factor, what the organization possesses, the five pillars, and behavioral factor, what individual do, safety compliance, and safe participations. This structure perfectly matches to my study variable. Beyond perceptions, dynamic interactions. What set Cooper apart from models like Zohar or Nosek 50? Those models focus solely on perceptions. They lack mechanisms to explain how perception convert into actions. Cooper model capture the dynamic interaction between dimensions that is essential for testing mediation effects of psychological safety and leadership. For example, in the study, we asked how culture changes behavior through the lens of psychological safety. Here we come to the research methodology part, measurement instrument and analysis strategy. This research designed positivist quantitative cross-section survey. I target approximately 270 construction workers and supervisors using stratified random sampling with an expected response rate of 60 to 75%. All instruments are validated scales. The five pillars use NOSEC 50 and adapted scales. 30 item total. Psychological safety using Edmondson 10 items. Safety leadership use Balling's 12 items. Safety compliance has 6 items and safety participations 7 items from Neil and Griffins. Expected Kobach alpha is above 0.7 for all scales. More detail, the study design is cross-sectional across multiple construction projects for one company only. Sample size is about 270 workers. Data collection use self-administered questionnaire available in both digital and paper formats. Expected response rate is 60 to 75%, encouraged through initiatives and follow-up. Variable measures include safety culture, safety behavior, and injury rated using multi-item scale. There is only as strong as a real-world performance. Copper model framework has been successfully validated in Malaysian construction landscape. Key studies include Isma et al. And Norasha et al. Both in 2021. This localized validation increased our confidence that this model is currently and industrially applicable. Here, I summarize the hypothesis pathway. The direct pathway, strong organizational commitment is hypothesis to be associated with reduced unsafe behavior. That's hypothesis 1 and hypothesis 2. Mediation via safety leadership. Safety leadership is expected to mediate the relationship between management commitment and safety training on other hand, and worker safety compliance on the other. Hypothesis 4C and hypothesis 4D. Mediation via psychological safety to mediate the relationship between safety attitude and safety environment on other hand, and safety participation on the other. Hypothesis 4A and 4B. These are what the study will test. The critical rational review. Why I depend Cooper model. If a stakeholder asks why I'm not using Zoha model, here is my defense. Cooper model include the behavioral dimension as a reciprocal element. It tests how and why mediations rather than just what perception. Its help explains how leadership bridge internal attitude and external environment. Zoha model is excellent for describing safety climates, but Cooper model is superior for explaining mechanisms. As the conclusions, anticipated contributions. What will the study contribute? First, strong organizational commitment to safety is hypothesized to be associated with reduced unsafe behavior. Second, safety leadership is expected to mediate the relationship between management commitment and safety training and workers' safety compliance. Third, psychological safety is expected to mediate the relationship between safety attitude and safety environment, as well as safety perception. The practical implication: construction team should target both psychological safety, encouraging workers to speak up, and safety leadership, supervisors' behaviors to improve safety outcome. For policies, I recommended mandating safety cultural audit in licensing requirement. For future research, conduct longitudinal studies to track safety cultural evaluations. Before I end up my presentations, here is the psychological safety code from Acme Edmondson, where I found it during my literature review. I believe that one will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes, and that the team is safe for interpersonal risk taking. With that, I end up my presentation. Thank you very much for your time, especially to our examiner and lecturers. Have a pleasant day ahead. Bye bye.